And now, Book 3 of 7 Days in Sunny June. Chapter 1, June 2nd. Morning has broken. Fluttershy stumbled into the kitchen, half awake. "Morning, Mom," she said, pausing only to kiss Posy on the cheek before making a beeline to the coffee maker. "You're up early," the busty teen mumbled before managing to get some to the scintillating elixir of life down her throat. Seated at the breakfast table, eating a bowl of cereal and reading from her tablet, Posy didn't look up from the screen. She said, "I have a meeting at 8. Mrs. Mix has taken a turn for the worst after last night, and Dr. Aftercare wants to discuss stability issues with the staff and how we're going to break this to his family." "Is that bad?" Fluttershy asked, as she winced, more from the bitter aftertaste of the coffee than her mother's words. Posy nodded. "We've done all we can, but there's a point where you just can't do it anymore. Mrs. Mix has lived a long, long life, and she's had children and grandchildren. The kind of life anyone would want, but no one lives forever." The chiffon-haired teen sat down across from her mother and tried to give her the kindest smile she could. "Don't blame yourself. You've done everything you could." Posy gave her look-alike daughter a warm look. "I thought I was supposed to be the encouraging one." Fluttershy's response made her mother proud. "I learned from the best." The teen would have said something further had it not been for the ringing of the doorbell. "I'll go get that." I'll be up from his seat. The teen went to the door to find a FedEx courier standing there, package in hand, signing for the custody of the small box. She then waved goodbye and headed back to the kitchen, a smile on her face suddenly disappearing as she saw the address. As Posy watched her daughter return to the kitchen table, she saw the look on Fluttershy's face as the teen looked at the package. "I knew this was going to come sooner or later," the woman mused. "God damn, I'm an idiot for not taking care of this sooner." "Fluttershy." The teen shook her head. "No, Mom, this isn't your fault. But I already know what's in it, and frankly, I don't want to go." A rare look of anger and disgust crossed the usually placid teen's face as he said, "I want nothing to do with him." "Flutters, he's your father," Posy told her daughter. "You should give him a chance." "No, I'll admit, I have great memories of when I was just a kid. But when he left us, and for a stupid, selfish..." A severe look crossed Posy's face, an equally unusual visage for the doctor. "Fluttershy, this is your father you were talking about. Regardless of how you feel about him, he deserves your respect, understood?" "No, I don't," Fluttershy replied. "But fine." The look on her face agitated. She said, "I think I'm going to have breakfast now, Mom. I'll be back before you leave." Before Posy could even react, the teen raced to the door, grabbed her keys, and by the time Posy even had managed to reach the door, Fluttershy's butter-yellow Nissan Leaf rushed down the street. "Don't know where she picked up that speed," Posy thought clumsily as she watched her daughter's car disappear into the distance. Either hanging around Rainbow has improved her athleticism, or she gets it from her father. Either one's legit. Posy looked at the package lying on the table, addressed to both Fluttershy and Angel, bearing their father's address. "I don't know who screwed this up more," she thought glumly to the package, as she thought telepathically communicating to the sender himself. "You or me, probably both of us. That's why we ended up together after all." She then heard surf footfalls behind her, their source being a young, tow-headed boy wearing a gun buddy festoon pajamas. "Hey, sweetie," she told her son, kissing him on the crown of his head. "Want some cereal?" He didn't bother to sign her actions. She knew about Angel's lip-reading ability long before Fluttershy realized it. He nodded, and with that, she went to the kitchen to get his favorite, Trix, the one with the rabbit on it. She heartily approved of it, but Angel had always been a fussy eater, and given the difficult day it had already looked to be, might well start on a high. It was going to go downhill for her family, probably by noon at the earliest. Or until he calls, wanting to talk to her, Posy thought glumly. As she set the bowl in front of Angel, he signed a quick thank you, followed by, "Where's Fluttershy?" "He stepped out for a moment, sweetie. She had to drop something off at Rarity's," Posy lied. "She'll be back home in a few minutes." "Okay." He picked up the spoon, ready to take it to breakfast before him, when he saw the look on his mother's face, pensive, anxious. Am I in trouble?" "No, dear." "Is Fluttershy?" "No," she sighed. "Just, it's going to be a rough day at work." Oh, with that, Angel started eating, knowing his mother wasn't going to tell him what was wrong. Obviously, his mother and our older sister had an argument, causing Fluttershy to head somewhere to cool off. A rare moment for the two older females in his life, but something he knew happened on occasion. He just wished either of them would tell him the truth. Just because he was deaf didn't mean he was stupid. The sun was a burning 95 degrees as Sunset Shimmer stepped onto the grounds of Caroline High, ready to start her first day of summer school. All around her, students looked like they'd been given the ultimate prison sentences, and a few of the more dramatic types acted as though they were trudging along on the Baton Death March. Not so for Sunset, however. The smile on her face was bright and cheery, despite the fact that this was the last place in the universe she wanted to be right now. The very fact that she was here, at this place in time, was enough to make her grin from ear for ear. 7 days, or 5 minutes, depending on how you looked at it, had been leading up to this very moment. By this time next week, she knew if everything had succeeded. This time she knew it would. You're way too tearful this morning, you know that? Sunset turned to see Rainbow approaching. This is summer school! You're not supposed to be happy here! Rainbow, I just lived through one of my roughest weeks of my life. Apparently in 5 minutes, too. So I think I'm due a little bit of a break. You're sure the princess isn't going to come from you? The tone in the athlete's voice indicated concern for her friend. No, Celestia and I made up. Something I should have done years ago. The former unicorn admitted, but things are all better now. Twilight won't have nightmares, and I'm back, better than ever. Yeah, sure. Oh, forgot to mention, AT wanted to know if you're free for lunch today. She needed a favor. I don't have to work today, so yeah, I'm clear. In fact, lunch is on me. I know this great place down in Newport Beach that... Where? Newport Beach, down south. I went back in March, remember? Trust me, you'll love TK's. They have the... Rainbow's eyes twitched. Newport Beach. Yeah? As in... Los Angeles? Sunset nodded. That's 600 miles! Rainbow spat. Well... The Grand Sunset's face was whimsical. About 587 miles, give or take, she replied. But how... Her mind disconnected as 2 and 2 furiously faltered into 4. You could teleport there? Don't be dumb, Rainbow. Of course I can't teleport straight there. Just because I got all my magic back doesn't make me Alucard strong. A relieved look came to Rainbow's face. Oh good, because for a moment... Sunset pulled out her phone and brought up Google Maps. Given the distance, we probably have to make a quick 5-minute stops in Chico, Yuba City, Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, Merce, Madeira, Fresno, Facila, Delano, Bakersfield, Lancaster, downtown LA, and Long Beach, just so I can regain my bearings. Since it's a bit of a trip for a chain teleport, if we meet up with AT at 12:30, we should be at TK's at about 2 in the afternoon, tops. You know, I'm glad you're my friend, or I'd be really worried about it now. Sunset cringed at that remark. Rainbow, Sonny, we're cool and all, and well, but you can't expect me to just forget that you used to be like, or what you briefly became. Rainbow reminded her, but I know, I get it. You have awesome mad skills, and you want to show it off to your friends. We're also supposed to look out for you, right? The last thing you or your family needs is for black helicopters and all that top secret government crap. So, instead of getting frequent flyers for once, Rainbow suggested, why don't we just have lunch at the In and Out on the Riverfront Road, and you can take us all a trip to Disneyland later, okay? Yeah, Sunset admitted dejectedly, feeling both glad that Rainbow was there to talk sense to her, and a sense of weirdness that she was having Rainbow, of all people, talk sense to her. As they approached the school entrance, they were met by Trixie. Hey, I didn't know you had summer school, the flame-haired told the newcomer. I don't. Lyra forgot her backpack, and her mom told me to drop it off while I was headed to the children's center, the team assistant replied. Oh, and a couple of things. My mom insists that I bring you by for a crystal infusion and a chat with a friend of hers who's an acupuncturist. Probably more of that Sunny needs her tea crap. And I was wondering if I could arrange a time for you to start showing me that Beyond Non. Sure. Free for lunch? AT Rainbow and I are going in and out for class. You're welcome to join us if you want. That sounds like a good idea. Alright, Trixie saw Lyra approaching and said, "Okay, just give me a call when you're ready. See you then." As Trixie departed, Rainbow whispered, "See, now ain't you glad I talked some sense into you?" "Hey, I already admit it." "Good morning, Sunset," Rainbow. Behind them, Miss Lynn's voice rang loud and clear. "I'd like to see you both in my office right now." As he pulled into the parking lot of the Equestrian County High School for at-risk students, Celestia grunted as he parked a district-issued 2007 Toyota in a staff space, thinking about how much he hated driving this thing and how it handled. Well, like the clunky piece of crap it was. Millie, she would much prefer to drive her baby, but parking a pristine kept 2007 Hyundai Tiberian DK FL12 in the middle of Sunnytown was tantamount to painting, "Hey, break in and steal this car" on the sides. Besides, as the assistant superintendent for the summer school program, she had to look professional. The Selzy tended to be a more impus than most of her peers. Even she had her limits. As he parked, a well-dressed gentleman with dark skin, a trim haircut, and soul patch came out of a featureless, blindly gray building. Like her, he had a reputation for being unconventional, all the more so for his job as principal of the Blanks, which, unlike all the other schools, ran year-round. At the moment, he was wearing a black suit, gray shirt, and a black tie that changed to a red gradient towards the end. "Oh, Superintendent Celestia, what a pleasure to see you," he said in a growly, bassy voice that didn't seem to fit his life's reign. "Dr. Sombra," he said, flashing a smile, "you didn't need to come out here to see me." "It would be rude of me to let a lady, or an old colleague and friend of mine, to walk around unescorted in such a place," he said with a grin to match hers. "So, I hope you didn't run into too much trouble on the way here." "No, other than the 3 cops cuffing someone down in the corner of Piedmont and Gladiola and making a show of it," she replied. "I would hope it's not one of your students. He looks pretty young." Sombra dropped a smile as his features took a more serious appearance. "Gia, you're an old friend, so do me a favor. Just because I run the country's, quote, problem child school, unquote, doesn't mean that my students are problems to be shoved off until they can be incarcerated. Yes, they are here. No one can deny that. But each of them is a worthy second chance. Certainly, I'm sure you can see that, can't you?" "Especially since I've seen the biggest turnaround in my life in the past year," she admitted. "From a student of mine that I fully expected to end up here one day." "Oh?" he asked, his interest piqued. After Celestia gave him a brief explanation of Sunset Shimmer's year, he nodded in approval. "All she needed was someone to love and understand her. You don't know how many of my students end up here just because of a broken or non-existent families. Especially the increase of said type of student this year as a result of the incident back in January." "Well, someone like Sunset, of course, but some of them, like Gilda Griffin, a former student of mine and now one of yours, I have serious doubts about."
"Yes, and yet Miss Griffin's records indicate that she had a history of being abused as a child by her father," Sombra noted. "Copies of the relevant police reports were in her file."
"But I've met her father and stepfather," Celestia cowered. "She's been living with them ever since her father was imprisoned. They're some of the most intelligent and caring parents I've ever met. Furthermore, she hasn't had contact with her father since she was 9. Sombra, I honestly don't like saying this, but a rotten egg is a rotten egg."
"Funny. My old teacher said the same thing about me when I got here," he told her, an even look on his face.
Realization dawned on her. "You were a student here?"
"One of the worst," he admitted, a sad look on his face. "I cared nothing for the school, and what little I did was involved in, if you'll excuse the term, bitches and bucks. What got me sent here from Pine Grove High was that I was caught having sex in the bathroom with my girlfriend at the time."
"That doesn't seem—"
"It was the principal's daughter. Oh, and I was 15 at the time. She was 12.
And boom, there goes any chance I have of getting any of my videos monetized. Good night, everybody! When Celestia glanced, he nodded.
"Once I arrived here, however, I'd gotten straightened out the hard way by one particular teacher who told me that you could have as many second chances as you want, but only the first one counts. So after that, I turned my life around. Didn't graduate with honors, but Got decent enough grades to get into the Marine Corps, where I really got my ass kicked. Needed that reinforcement just as much. After that, studied to get my education degree while in the Corps, left as a staff sergeant, then got a teaching job here. Specifically here. Because the students here needed an example that, yes, there is more to life than just gang banging. Celestia, needless to say, was impressed. Well, I did not know that about you. He grinned. Just because I don't publicize it. Least thing I need is for someone like higher standards over at Sunnytown High to bitch about how the Blank's principal is no better than those he's teaching. Besides, Waddle knows. He does. Sabra laughed. Who do you think was the father of my then girlfriend? Besides, once I straightened out and we were older, I rekindled my relationship with his daughter. Chris still carried a torch for me, and... He chuckled, savoring the memory. Plus, when we told him he was going to be a grandfather, well, at least that finally made him accept our relationship. Pointing to a glass area down the hall, he stated, So with that, let's head over to the Crystal Empire and my office, shall we? As they walked down the hall, Celestia asked, Crystal Empire? He laughed harder this time. About 10 years ago, the principal at the time was this paranoid lunatic who thought every student here was out to get him. He had the glass in the administrative office replaced with bulletproof polycarbonate. He said, rapping his knuckles against the clear surface. Well, he blew the school's budget that year almost entirely on the bulletproof glass, as well as reinforced titanium door. His secretary thought it was the most stupid thing ever, and commented to us teachers that Principal Glassheart's acting like an emperor in a crystal palace. Well, word got out. One of the students at the time coined the phrase Crystal Empire to refer to the admin office, and since then it's stuck. As for Glassheart, the following year he took an assistant superintendent job in Seattle, probably doing the same stupid shit there. As they walked in, Sabra ushered Celestia to a table in his office, then gave her a manila folder. Here's the thing. With the addition of the students who were expelled from their schools and sent here, we're currently running at 138% capacity. I can't support any more students, and with the school's reputation, it's always been difficult to hire extra faculty here. So with that, I have no alternative but to return not only the students who met the threshold for academic reinstatement into the standard school network, but the borderlines as well. In the case of Carolina High, that's 15 students, including Renero, Three Leaf, and Gilda Griffin. Opening the folder, Celestia looked over the list of students he handed her. Sure enough, there were 15 students on the return list, many of them the ones that she regretted sending here but had no choice, given the district rules. The last three on the list, however, were our biggest concerns. Ranio was a violent teen who liked solving any issue with fights. He ended up here because he attempted to hit Shirley after she gave him to test him for smoking in the hall. It would have hit her, had not Macintosh Apple stepped in and blocked the blow. Three Leaf, in all honesty, was mostly harmless. It says she'd been caught making heroin using the school's chemistry rooms. She was a gifted girl otherwise and wasn't a drug user. But her passion for chemistry got into serious trouble. And Gilda? Celestia had to admit she felt a certain level of protectiveness now for Sunset Shimmer, but knew the alien T could protect herself if necessary. Who barely missed the cutoff? She asked. Sabra stated, with both Starlet and Ruby. In Starlet's case, she would have made the cutoff outright. She got a C in her social studies class. He didn't sign and added, Ruby's case, while she technically did make the cutoff, Carolina High isn't listed as having substance abuse counselors, so... Celestia recalled the two students. Starlet was a talented girl, if she ever applied herself. Of course, there was another student who had been sent here on technicality, merely profaning graffiti tags all over the school, including one, objectively and aesthetically beautiful, Celestia privately admitted, bitch mural all over Miss Harsway's brand new Mercedes Benz. As for Ruby, she shouldn't have been one of her students. The girl's house was in the boundary set for Riverfront High, but her mother used her grandparents' address, so she and her twin sister Mia could attend Carolina High. Ruby was an average student, made worse by repeated drug use. Some of us had been suppleed by Three Leaf. Mia, on the other hand, was one of her best students, but the teen constantly As I looked through the valley of the shadow of death, I realized in my own life there's that much death. I'm sorry.
Never again. I'll never do that again. Plus, if I had to be honest, I let Sunset slide by this time. When the factory she lived in is technically in the riverfront zone. I can't afford to play favorites. I'm not about to send Sunset away. She smiled inwardly. The answer was obvious. She set the list down. Give me both of them. I like to think Starlet's learned her lesson. And as for Ruby, one of my counselors, Iron Will, is taking a substance abuse counseling training course this summer. So we'll have some help for her if she really wants to get off drugs. In turn, you keep Rhaenyra. I don't care how.
Supper nodded. I hope you can say that. On the last day of regular classes, Rhaenyra took a swing as geometry teacher, just because Plank Owner gave him detention for smoking in the bathroom. Unfortunately for Rhaenyra, Plank Owner is a former Navy SEAL.
Celestia looked down at Stas. How many of your staff is ex-military?
Most, to be honest. A sober look came over him as he confided, You won't believe how often it comes in handy.
Fluttershy came back 30 minutes later, as promised. Mom, look, I'm sorry, she said with a concrete look on her face. Fluttershy, I'm already late as it is, Posey said, grabbing her car keys. We'll talk about this later tonight, at dinner, okay? I just want you to remember something. As hard as it is for you and Angel to deal with the situation, he's still your father, and that's never going to change. Okay, the teen said in a repentant voice. Posey kissed her daughter on the cheek. I know you'll get through this, sweetie. Angel's already eaten, and he's upstairs playing video games right now. And no, he can't play those Fallout ones again. Got it, Mom. See, waving her mother off, Fluttershy sighed, all for a second before she felt a punch. One neck stung, but wasn't hard enough to do any real damage. Pushing into pain, she looked down to see Angel there, scowling. Oh, good morning, Angel, she said, knowing he was already in his element.
Was you, Mom?
The child fiercely sighed, his fingers flickering with the speed of emotion. A sign he was really not happy with his older sister. Angel, I don't really want to talk about it right now, Fluttershy said in a morose tone. Mom and I had a disagreement, and we'll solve it. It's what adults do.
Don't bullshit me, he responded.
Fluttershy shook her head. You know you're not supposed to use language like that.
Yeah, and I'm not supposed to play my favorite video games either, the boy replied. So here's the deal. I don't bother you about what you and Mom fought about. You leave me alone while I'm playing Firefall. Promised some of my friends I'd be thumping in Broken Shores this afternoon, since I'm so close to getting Gaia Enforcer.
I have no idea what it means, but it can't be good, Fluttershy groaned. In response, Angel merely crossed his arms and scowled at his sister. Don't even think that She started, but her younger brother merely stood his ground. She was trying in response and said, Fine, but only for a little while, okay?
Yeah, whatever. When the teacher gets here for lunch, bring me up a couple of slices, okay?
Without waiting for an answer, he walked back towards his bedroom. Fluttershy rolled her eyes. She knew she spoiled her little brother rotten. Well, was generally a good kid. So, he deserved it, right? It was a second later that Fluttershy realized something. Wait, I'm supposed to be ready for lunch today. As Rainbow and Sunset sat down, Luna looked both of them across the expanse of her desk. To begin, I want to make this clear. This has nothing to do with academics. This is entirely on Sunset's problems. If you understand my meaning, the woman clarified. The two teens each gave a relieved look before Sunset began. I know we didn't have much time to talk once I got back yesterday, Miss Luna, but Celestia and I just want to make sure you're safe now, Luna replied. You realize the concerns we do have, do you not? I promise it's not an issue any longer, Sunset insisted. Oh, Miss Luna, Rainbow began. Did you ever watch that movie where the one guy wishes he had the power to do anything that one day magically did? I'm not sure what film you're referring to, the educator said, but I gather you're a lot more powerful now, Sunset. There was a brief flash in the woman's eyes, something would normally be ignored, but Sunset, seeing that look on Rainbow's face not too long ago, filled her with dread. Do you trust me, Miss Luna? Sunset asked in a worried tone. In response, Luna only nodded. Then give me your hand. You too, Rainbow. Both Rainbow and Luna did so, with the principal suddenly saying, I don't see what any of this has to do with, boom, trusting you. Luna's statement suddenly veered to question as she realized she was no longer in office, or the school building. A second later, she wasn't even in Equestria County, much less Carolot. Is this Horseshoe Bay? She asked astonished. She could feel the spray specific, even from the cliffside they were looking down and seaside city below, nearly 150 miles west of where they were just a breath ago.
Holy shit, you weren't kidding!
Rainbow shouted, completely caught off guard.
This is awesome!
Linda privately agreed. She instead looked at the flame-haired girl with concern. Sunset, you... Seeing the hurt look in Sunset's eyes, Linda bit off what she was going to say and said, ask, how difficult is this for you? Still need to get my magic recharged, but there's more being out of practice than actually being winded. Sunset replied, but the teal dear of yours is, I'm no longer bound to the moon for my magic. This is the full power I was born with, the power I was always meant to have. The princess unsealed for it just before I left, because she couldn't comprehend how hard it was for me to live without magic for so long, quote unquote. And it was sealed because training wheels of a sort, Sunset replied, but our tongue orders he made, truthfully up till now, I didn't deserve to have my full abilities restored. All that power in human hands can be a temptation, Luna replied, hoping she didn't sound too scolding. Don't worry, Miss Luna. I promise I'm only going to use my powers for good, and only if I need to. Besides, I'd rather just be a normal girl than a relatively all-powerful unicorn. Sunset told her as she raised her hand, and a flash of aqua-hued power flared from it. A blade glare, and the trio were back into comfort in Luna's office. As she returned to her seat, the principal sighed in relief. You don't realize how much that means to me, she told Sunset. Not because I feared you would misuse your powers, because it shows you truly love those who have taken you in. I had the option to remain back in Equestria, Sunset admitted. After I made amends with the princess, she wanted me to return to my studies as her apprentice, but my family was more important to me. Instead, she gave me a new assignment. Figured that both Rainbow and Luna will want the whole story. Sunset explained everything that was happening the past week. She figured she'd be retelling it quite a few times in the next few days in any case. It may be too early to tell, but I wish someone would call me and let me know Twilight's okay. Sunset said in a worried voice that completed her tale. I mean, I know the spell's done with, that and the component aura that blindsided everyone else, but I just want concrete evidence she's okay. Seeing the distraught look on her friend's face, Rainbow really reached over and patted Sunset on her shoulder. So they're all rather busy at the moment, but Harmonia sent Celestia a quick text yesterday to let her know that they all arrived safely at Pisa, so everything should be fine. Luna told Sunset, and was rewarded with a look of guarded relief came on the younger lady's face. So don't worry, things will come around at the right time. I just hope it's soon. I'm sure it will, Sunset. Now go home and get it on to class, you two. You don't want to be late on your first day.